Okay, part two, discourse communities. Discourse community is a group that you belong to, shares goals, values, and language. And what we're really interested in here for this assignment in particular is the language part of it, how words are used. And you get to write about a word or the jargon of your field or your group and tell us a story about it. How you got to know about this language, how you got involved with this group, and how language helped you either become part of it, or you can even, I've even had people write about how they kind of got involved and they realized they just didn't fit in with the values and stuff, and the language helped them understand that, so they left and did something else, went someplace else. So you're going to be writing, you'll be telling us a story about you and a discourse community and the use of language in that discourse community and how it affected you, right? So the things you're going to be reading a couple of things. You're going to look at a brief excerpt from a book called The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde, which some of you may have read in high school. It's just the first chapter. It's about fuku is one word from his community, which is the DR, Dominican Republic, that has so much power that it kind of rules and explains that country. Okay, so that's about one word. Okay, and he wants people to know about that word because he thinks it's important for understanding that it affects them and affects him and whatever. Queen Latifah, we're not going to be reading this piece, but because we just don't have enough time. But she writes how it's important to her to be called a queen and not a this, right? And she's making a real specific political point about that particular word, right? And then what we are going to read is Perry Costa's essay. It's an old one. It's been around a really long time, but it still works because she talks about becoming a doctor. I mean, how she had to learn the language of being in a hospital in order to become part of that profession. So you get to decide which discourse community you want to write about and how language functions in that discourse community. Now, it's not a word like love or family, okay? It needs to be a word that's very inside, very much a part of that discourse community. I have people do things like ambition. Well, no, that's just a word, right? Once I questioned her about it, she said ambition means really specific, has lots of layers of meaning in her particular culture. And so she wrote about how that was good and bad and how people used ambition almost like a stick to beat people with. So it got to be pretty interesting, but it was because she knew what she was doing with that discourse community. But generally a word like love or ambition or that kind of stuff just doesn't work. You know, look for a word that's inside. A student who wrote about being part of a gym last term, one of the words that he used was a set. Now, what's a set? You know, so he explained what a set was and how important it is to have goals around numbers of sets and stuff, which got pretty fascinating. Okay, so it needs to be a word that has specific meaning for that specific group, and it could be in a different language. In fact, you can write half of it you can write it partly in not English. When you read the Fuku, you'll see that a lot of it is in Spanish. Sandra Cisneros tends to write a lot. She puts a lot of Spanish language in there. I had a student a couple years ago, and heck, half of this essay was in a Japanese ideograph. It was in characters. I didn't have a clue what he was talking about, but it was really interesting because he kind of explained it. That was really neat. So you can write, whatever way you want to. I'm not looking for this to be beautifully perfect, standard, what I call standard white guy English, even though you need to know that, because that's the language of business. But for this one, I don't care. This is about you and the community that you're part of. So make this, where you're really comfortable. Now, you do need to make a point. You're telling a story. And when we tell stories have beginnings, middles, and ends, right? So you are going to be telling us a story about your discourse community, about you in your discourse community. Take us there. I'm going to give you, I think the exercise is in here. I know I do it in class, where you put yourself in the place where the discourse community is, and then you look around and you tell us what's going on in a scene, right? Like the first time you walked into or you got online with a game. Oh my gosh, you're sort of hyper aware of everything. So tell us about that. Tell us the people, the makeup Make up dialogue if you want to. It'd be the kind of dialogue that you would hear, but it wouldn't necessarily be the truth. The setting, the dialogue, take it to that place. Tell us a story and have it make a point. Like my student who did the thing about how they got into this discourse community and realized they hated it because of the way language is used. So the point of that story was, you may think you want something until you get into that discourse community and you realize that's not the community I want to be part of. So that was her point of that. Right? So it's all about who you are and what that group is and how you fit into it. What will be graded on? We're gonna post these on the Google Drive, so everybody gets a chance to look at them. Now, I'm not requiring people to do comments this time, but I'm going to strongly encourage, once you kind of get a feel for who's writing what, which we'll do as part of the assignment, go look at them. You'll be writing for all of us, explaining to all of us about your discourse community. Okay, this is not an academic. I'm not looking for a thesis statement. You give me a thesis statement, I'll probably come through the computer at you. But just tell me a story. Make it interesting to us. Just consider it. I have had students give me a 3-page, 1 paragraph. Give me a break. A, I have ADHD. I won't sit still that long to read a single paragraph. And B, nobody in their right mind wants to read a 3-page paragraph. I mean, that's nuts. That's like trying to read William Faulkner again. And if you haven't read Faulkner, count yourself lucky, except that he's a really good writer. But some of his stuff is really hard to read because he has these page-long sentences. So you guys to break it up a little bit, right? And the purpose, again, is think about your audience. You're going to be teaching us something, telling us something we don't already know. The language, you can use whatever you want to. Like I said, you might want to write in Spanglish, might want to have part of it in Urdu. I know there's one person in the class for whom Urdu is their first language, but they don't really speak it. That's an interesting concept, too. Counts at least 1,000 words. The due date is June the 6th. This is a pretty quick thing because it's like a personal narrative, right? You're not having to do research or any of that kind of stuff, although you can. But you can bring in, conversations from other people that you've had. But this is not an academic piece. This is a personal essay. So these are some questions you can ask yourself, about the word or the language. When's the first time you ran into it? Why is it important? How does using it correctly indicates, that you're really a member of this group or not? Who can use the word and who's not allowed to, which is kind of an interesting thing to think about. It's like my student who said she didn't belong. Okay, brainstorm scenes and memories and this kind of stuff. So here's the schedule. This is today. And then for Tuesday, do the Meltzer things. It's and I forgot, I just added the PDF on it, but it's the one that I was showing you before. It's back here. This one, Understanding Discourse Communities, which has 2 parts. The first part is the PDF I showed you, which you do not have to annotate if you don't want to, but it's there for you to look at, more for reference than anything else. And because if you have a question, you can leave it there. And the second part is his article. Right, so you're going to be reading and annotating those 2 things. That's for Tuesday. For Wednesday, and once you do that, I would jump into this one pretty quickly because there's a couple of things to read. Also on Perusall, there's an assignment called Discourse Community Examples. And it's this one. And there's 2 articles in here. The first one is, I'll open it so you can see it. It's from Juno, from Oscar Wilde, and it's about Fuku. And it's got, be sure to read the footnotes because the footnotes are part of it. It matters, okay? We've got a lot of footnotes, a lot of history in here. It's not all that long. And then the second part is this essay. And yes, I got it from the Times, and it's just the way it is. But here's the article itself, okay? And again, it's not all that long. So you can read and make comments on it. The first one, this one is about being a doctor. And the first one is about the Dominican Republic, right? And a word that's common to that culture. So that's the second thing that you'll be doing. Be sure to do both of them, right? And then by Thursday, on Open Lab, write a post where you kind of react to the 2 articles, right? About 300 words. talking about, what communities you might be, you're a part of, things that you're looking at. You can react to the 2 articles. This one's sort of a free-form, open concept, open lab post. Reacting to the articles, talking about your discourse communities. I always put the categories up, so when you post, the categories are here. So that's the category of my DCs, discourse communities. And then by Friday, create a post on the bottom. It's a new Padlet, and it is, I got computer. It's this one. It's my discourse community. So again, like you did with the first one, put your name in the title and your discourse community, and add a picture. And let me show you what I mean by that. These are some from my spring class. They're discourse communities. Same thing. They had pictures. This one's got a little bit of a video. It gave us an idea of, and again, obviously, some really interesting things got written last term. None of which I'm actually going to share because they're, may or may not share. But anyway, you can see what they're doing. This one, she wrote about writing as a teacher, in her first days as a paraprofessional in the classroom. I got several people talking about gaming from different parts of it. This one of them wrote about how gaming sort of saved his sanity during the pandemic, which was kind of cool. Sabina talked about being part of this group in high school. Right? I had a couple people writing about fashion design, why they got interested in it, and being a part of a fashion course. This one on cosmetology, Astrid ended up writing about taking classes and getting involved online with people, like on Instagram or WhatsApp, or I can't remember what group she ended up writing about. Okay, so you can see these are some of the things that we're talking about. So that's the Padlet. Okay, whoops, back up. So this is ours, and then by the next Monday, by the 6th, right? By the 6th, just do what we call a shitty first draft. It doesn't have to be brilliant. We just put it in the Google Drive, and add at the bottom of it, when you finish writing your portrait, leave me a note, or to anybody who's going to look at it, saying what you wanted to do with it. What you think is working well and what you're worried about or you think you might need help with, right? So again, it's a pretty quick assignment, but it's summer, and it's really, a way more fun one than some of the other things that you do. And we need more time for the Unit 2 and then also Unit 3. But again, this is just a rough draft, okay? And I'll be leaving you notes. I will encourage everybody to comment on each other's stuff. And the revision is what counts, as I said, on the syllabus, which I guess I could go back up here and find that, couldn't I? On the syllabus about the grading, as long as I'm here, I'll do this. Okay, you see this 5%? So you get a grade on this draft. This is draft of 1 to 5. So 4.5 to 5 is an A, blah, blah, blah. Now, when you get my notes and notes from everybody else, and you do revisions, and it goes, say maybe you made a 3 or a 3.5, which is like a C on the first one, you go back and rewrite it, and it turns into an A or a B. I'll give you the points here, 10 points for each one of them, and I'll go back and change this. So my grades in my class tend to look high, but that's because I want people to gain something, right? And I want you to revise and see the power of revision, which we'll talk about a little bit more. So don't panic about the first one. Just get it in the drive. And it will be, the way to get there is just to click on Google Drive, right? And here's Portrait of a Word. So this was me. Stop it. I don't know why it's doing that. I put a couple of things in here for a variety of reasons that don't need to be there, but this is to show you how to link. When we get to Unit 3, I'll take this out, but I'll talk about it. But don't worry about it. You can either just upload your portrait, or you can create a whole new folder with your name on it. It doesn't make any difference. If you want to just write the whole thing a Google Doc in here, that's okay too, right? But you can upload a Word doc. I'll probably open it in Google Docs so I can comment on it. But this is where you put it. So it goes right there. Right? Fairly simple. Again, if you get confused about how to do it, let me know, and I'll walk you back through it. And I think that's pretty much it for this one. Discourse community, something you're a part of. How the language is used, how you got involved in using that language, how it affected you, some of those kinds of questions. Right? So if you think about it, you're going to read what it is, which is the stuff on Perusall. Right? Oop, back up. Just going over everything really quickly. Okay, this is today. Do the two things in, I got to fix this, but do the two things in understanding discourse communities. The first one you don't have to annotate, the Meltzer one you do. That's by the end of the day Tuesday. End of day Wednesday, read and annotate the two pieces, the Fuku and the Pericles thing. Right? By Thursday, do an open lab post where you react or respond to these two in any way you want to, and talk about, some discourse communities that you're involved in, and maybe thinking through which one you want to do. On Friday, pick one, and on the Padlet, tell us what the discourse community is and add an image that kind of goes along with it. And then the first draft will be due on Monday. And if you have problems or questions, hit me up on Slack. Those of you who've already got on Slack know that I respond pretty quickly. And I've gone over my 15 minutes, so I'm going to stop now. Get in touch. I'm doing this on Monday, on Sunday, so I hope you have or will have had a nice Memorial Day. See you later.